Welcome to Rethink, the Financial Advisor Podcast. My name is Adam Holt.
And this is Derek Notman. We are your hosts, both veteran advisors and fintech CEOs who challenge the status quo, question everything, and have fun doing it.
Hear honest commentary on the challenges facing advisors today.
And be part of a community where we can all rethink the profession. Now on to our episode. Adam, are custodians really delivering on digital first trends?
You mean like the paper onboarding or repapering of your accounts or enabling AI or rebalancing platforms that they all promised? Is that what you mean?
All of the above and then some. All that in a bag of chips.
I think I know that they've been talking about this stuff and they know that it's in the media and advisors are trying to figure out what the heck to do. Where is this coming from?
But is it actually happening, right? There's talk. And then I just saw a meme on this the other day. There's talk of starting a business, people that do that, and there's people starting a business. And the line for people talking about starting a business is a hell of a lot longer.
I think it really depends on who you're talking about, right? I mean, the bigger companies, the real big ones we know out there, the Mr. Charles out there, that's not an easy ship to turn. Fidelity, and they got a lot of loyalty and a lot of infrastructure put in place. That's not an easy thing to innovate.
It's not. There's a challenge there. And I know I've mentioned this a couple of times over previous episodes, but Bill Harris and I were talking about this too. And these firms, these big ones, Chuck, some of their technology could be decades old. And what's funny is that initially they were first early adopters of tech, but then they spent all this money on infrastructure. And now like you can only add so many features before the whole thing breaks down, and to recode an entire experience.
Yeah.
It's tough. So I don't know if I want to talk bad about custodians, but are they delivering on what the trends? We've talked about what's going on in the future of financial advice with the World Economic Report that we just recently saw this year. What consumers want is changing. What advisors want is changing. Is it being delivered on is the question.
Well, it's clear that a lot of the larger custodians that we've been using for years, you know, they've got relationship currency with us, like our boomer clients have relationship currency with us. And right.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if you change their fees. We already know 9% are going to move for lower fees. Everyone else is going to stick around, you know. And we joked about that. Obviously, if you remember the Abby Salome conversation about, you know, people stick with advisors. They don't even know how they're performing. I think sometimes the infrastructure is sticky, but there's a trend here, and I think we should talk about it because we have had interviews in the past from newer companies in this space that are doing things differently.
Yeah, go back and listen to episode 19 with Jason Wing over at Altruist, you know, fully digital custodian. They're doing really amazing things, but they're not the only one out there.
That's right. And we had an opportunity at Nitrogen's Fearless to interview Jon Patullo, who has enormous experience on this at TradePMR.
Well, yeah, and before that, he was early on at TD. So, and he's been a chief product officer. It's what he is now. And he has seen some really interesting, but what he's talking about now and what they're doing, that's crystal ball stuff that I would want to be paying attention to if I'm listening to this.
Oh, it's really true. Let's share about John's background. Now, you're right. He was at TD, but he was at TD when there were, I think, 12 employees.
Amazing.
And when you think about, obviously, their acquisition by Charles Schwab a couple of years ago, and then the full integration of that a year or so later, I think it's really interesting to see for so many of us that were in the fintech world, TD was such an open architecture shop. Yep. There was enormous loyalty for their willingness to innovate and be open and put their APIs out there. And it was a great place to work. And there was a lot of loyalty to that. And I think as that has changed and transitioned, advisors have been looking for newer, more modern outlets. And it's interesting and ironic that we actually interviewed Jon just probably 2 weeks before the Robinhood announcement to purchase TradePMR, which just, I think is an amazing thing. And I look forward to hearing both what Jon said, but also what Derek and I had an opportunity to rethink about post learning of that acquisition, because I think it's setting an interesting statement, Derek, for what's happening in the market.
No question about it. Let's jump in and hear what John has to say.
You got it.
John, it's great to see you here. The place that we hold near and dear, and
Yeah.
Derek actually and I met several years ago, and actually what inspired this podcast. So it's always fun to talk to people who are doing something interesting and different in the business. So uh, give us a flavor for what's your unique perspective, given all the history you've had in the past with TD on the business today.
Yeah, so been in the space for a long time, right? It really does seem like, it's such a huge opportunity, very exciting time for advisors,
Mm.
right? When you think of this whole generational wealth transfer that's happening, there all the different technologies that are out there today, there's huge opportunity for advisors to increase scale, efficiency, drive a better client experience, leveraging a lot of these newer technologies out there. And, I can't imagine a more exciting time at this point.
No, that's true. Well, you've seen a lot, and obviously helping to
Right.
build TD from early stage.
Yeah.
And hearing some about that amazing. Obviously we have so much history in this space. Gosh,
Yeah.
how many years have you been in the business now at
I
this
don't
point?
wanna
Do
date
we want to
myself-
talk about it?
date myself too much,
Like
but
a couple years.
multiple decades.
That's
Okay,
amazing.
thanks.
You've seen it like from a technology perspective, you've seen it go from almost no technology, right? To you see the kit system app today. It's great. You need a magnifying glass to find anything on it.
Yeah, I think, we did a lot early on to really bring a lot of the vendor community together. Integration was a huge struggle for advisors, back in the day. And we had the opportunity to really,
Yeah.
pull in a lot of the industry leading software providers. We didn't do it all ourselves. And we were able to collaborate with a lot of vendors in the space, right? To make sure we're delivering the right solutions for our mutual clients, all of our advisors. And,
Mhm.
that's where we really came up with the idea to open up our APIs. And, we started having, 180 vendors innovating on behalf of us,
Really?
right? Providing
Oh,
great
wow.
tools to,
Yeah.
our mutual clients.
Well, you definitely set the stage with Veo, no question about it.
Oh yeah, that was a game changer for sure. So are you kind of the same mindset now at TradePMR? Is this you're doubling down on technology? And I guess what would you do differently now?
Yeah, I mean, it's a super exciting time. I mean, moving over to TradePMR, I went from, award-winning platforms at TD to award-winning platform that they do strive on service and technology. Their
Mm.
platform's been rated highest in client satisfaction, the most recent T3 survey.
All right.
So, really stepping into a great situation, looking to, really bring the platform forward and continue to grow the business. Just knowing, I think there's such an opportunity in this space for advisors are looking for a better solution.
And we were talking with a number of people just at this conference, and the service thing keeps coming back. Like, how are you differentiating? How are you having those deeper relationships and so forth? It sounds like, I mean, you shared some statistic about phone call returns. Like, how long does it take?
Yeah. So our average, answer time for phone calls is 13 seconds, which is sort of unheard of in our industry. But, TradePMR really strives on providing that white glove service, making sure our service folks know who the advisor's business, how they
Mhm.
operate, what they like. And, in addition to that, the great technology they do have. Fusion has a great rebalancing system. The trading is better than I've seen even in my TD days. So great trading technology. Billing, it actually allows advisors to do calculations, your average daily balance. So it provides a lot of features to help advisors more efficiently run their business. Today, we actually launched Fusion Sync. So Fusion's our core account management platform.
Okay.
So Fusion Sync is actually a tool that allows advisors to easily transition business to TradePMR, leveraging AI. So it's actually leveraging Fusion Sync. The advisor can drop files in or pre-populating, creating all the accounts. It really takes that process from weeks down to a couple of days. Obviously, clients need to sign the applications, et cetera. But really trying to start leveraging AI to help drive a better overall experience for our advisors.
That's huge. To be able to speed that. 'Cause I mean, the thought of switching for an advisor is really daunting, right? Especially if it's going to be months of paperwork,
Absolutely.
right? And what's this experience for my clients going to be, and so forth. Okay, so given what you guys are doing there, what is a missing opportunity for companies like TradePMR, right? Or a challenge that you may think that's coming that they don't see yet, and like how should they deal with it? Maybe don't give away all your secret sauce, right? But you've got a unique perspective. It'd be interesting to know.
Yeah, I mean, we're excited, right? Obviously, advisors are looking to scale, create efficiencies. We do have tools like Apollo, which is a tool we launched at our conference in May, which it's a behavioral science tool that helps advisors learn more about, right, the spouse, the clients in the relationship, and sort of brings the family together. Because a lot of times, advisors may not focus. They might focus on just one person in the household. We've heard all the stats around kids firing their parents' advisor, the spouse firing it. the advisor too. So, this actually allows them to start leverage some AI to create content, but gives advisors good content to, make sure they understand, how the other spouse, right, might feel about money. And, a lot of times they might be more conservative and, not like what's going on. So this allows the advisor to bring everything together to and really help grow the business. So we see it as a huge growth engine for us to help bring on new clients, right? You can survey, learn about your clients, how they feel to make sure you're putting them in the right portfolios, et cetera.
It's interesting. So as a chief product officer, which is not a very common term we hear for certainly a custodian, if I can call you a custodian.
Yep.
It sounds to me like you're focusing the technology on removing barriers, removing friction for advisors to seamlessly move over their business and get business done, right?
Yep.
Efficiency seems to be like the big piece. I'm curious, a lot of our advisors tend to think, well, what can they do? What kind of action steps can I learn from Jon to go implement in my practice right now? What would be the recommendations you'd make to advisors to some action steps?
Yeah, I mean, the big thing I see in the space right now is obviously AI is huge. We're still early stages. This is probably where, the internet was with dial up. So, this is going to grow exponentially and really help automate a lot of non-business generating activities for advisors, right? So that they can go out and focus on growing their business. It's tremendous opportunity. And it feels like advisors are still kicking the tires. I mean, I was at a conference specifically for AI last week. Advise AI, and it was a great, it was good crowd, a lot of advisor interest, but I think more and more advisors need to start kicking the tires because this is really going to change the game for them. All of us want to be able to do things more efficiently, right?
Well, that's it.
I think from chatbots to, helping with client meetings, but the amount of people in an advisor's office they need today, the relationship's always going to be there, right? So they're not going away, but they're still going to need to continue to automate as much as possible with less folks, right? So adding a lot of scale for them.
So true.
When you say that advisors who don't kick the tires with AI are probably the ones that are going to get taken over by AI, it's not that AI is replacing human beings, but if you aren't using the technology and others are, you're going to just get pushed to the side, right?
Yeah, I think you're going to be, not making as much revenue, right? It's going to be harder to do business, right? It's going to impact everybody. And I think the folks that are adopting early are going to start getting some benefits. Obviously, but it is still early stages, but advisors should realize just seeing, what that can do with client meetings, right? During and post meeting, it could save a couple hours on each meeting, right? So, it helps generate content, it helps take the notes, put the notes in the CRM. It's really, amazing some of the tools out there today.
Got it. Have you gone to open architecture, or are you dictating what the tech stack needs to be for PMR? Are you allowing
we're obviously, at conferences like this, working closely with firms like Nitrogen. So we're open architecture, we believe in the vendor community, and sort of did that at TD Ameritrade. I was able to sort of get a lot of vendors to innovate on behalf of our advisors, right? So it just brings
good model.
It's
a really good model.
So it brings more capabilities to advisors to help them scale and run a more efficient practice.
So as a chief product officer, one of your responsibilities is let's see what the tech out there is, what makes sense for TradePMR and how it can help advisors, right? You're assessing that all the time, I'm guessing, right?
Yeah, so exactly. So a lot of it's talking to our clients. We have a variety of ways we meet with our clients. We have a client experience panel, right? Core users of our technology. We gather feedback on things they may need. I've done panels like that historically too. We've done it with the vendor community too, which, helps make sure you're building the right solutions that advisors are looking for. And, everything from, we talked a little bit about the answer time with phone calls and, just being able to provide that high level service, even, from a service perspective and technology for advisors.
You're ticking some pretty big boxes there for both, right? I remember being on hold for 45 minutes just to try to place a trade sometimes or other nonsense stuff back in my old broker dealer days.
Times has changed.
I've talked to some advisor staff. They would call, by the time somebody would answer, they'd have a problem.
Yeah.
Whoops. Couldn't get out of that trade.
Yeah,
I had that personally. We always give everybody an opportunity. Here we are at Nitrogen. We're in Nashville, hearing lots of music.
Right in the background right now.
Happens here in Nashville, stays in Nashville. Is there anything you think that the industry is not talking about they really should be?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, I think AI is going to accelerate quickly, right?
Yeah.
So, I think there's a lot of good conversations. There's vendors here, which is fantastic, right? Advisors are continuing to learn more. I think the pace of acceleration is going to happen quicker than folks think, right? It's going to move fast, and we don't want advisors to be left behind, right? We want them to be able to leverage that to automate a lot of things in there. A lot of those non-business generating activities.
Mm,
You want to sort of out,
Of course not.
offload and, give you that time to spend with your clients.
How does your compliance department feel about AI?
So it's a good question. So, we that, see what the SEC has said about
Of course.
AI,
Yep.
right? So
Yep.
obviously for I think for certain things, right? Automating tasks, people pushing buttons,
mhm.
it's good, right?
It's
So
really
still,
powerful.
so
Yeah.
it still needs to be, flushed out a little bit, right? Around the advice and those types of things. So, for us, the use case is really about automating some of those, monotonous
It's
tasks.
nice to hear that. I mean, that makes sense because now you can empower the advisor to be the advisor that they should be, right? And spend
Absolutely.
more time with the client.
Absolutely.
That is
We don't
key.
want to replace.
Highest revenue producing activity.
Exactly. Yep.
Let's get them there.
That's it.
Very cool. Thanks, Sean. We appreciate you being here.
Yeah. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
That was a fun conversation. I don't know if anyone listening here or even you, Adam, you tend to tune me out most of the time, but how many times did he talk about AI?
I think
Total
the count
focus.
was 17 times.
At least.
I don't know that he was talking about artificial intelligence, though.
Advisor intelligence?
I think that's always what it's about. No, I think that this is the first time I think we've heard somebody say more than just, I think AI is going to change the business, but is rather saying, I'm using AI to change the business.
Ooh, that's good.
They are using, and I had no idea. When we took on this interview, I really wasn't clear what TradePMR was doing that was earning them such accolade, right? So they did just win best user experience at T3.
Pretty awesome.
I'm thinking to myself, oh, okay, what did I miss? And it's not until you use these platforms that you start to realize. And it was interesting because Jon came from TD, as we talked about.
Yep.
And TD had such a great reputation and loyalty with the independent space for those that were real truists. I want to use any open architecture platform. In fact, we integrated with them super early on at Asset Map because they were so easy to work with. And to learn that they're taking that same attitude to another level is cool.
It's also telling about what's going on, and it's refreshing, actually. He's bringing an open architecture mindset to growing the business and looking into the future, which I really find interesting. I mean, what did he say? They had 180 API vendors that their APIs were into. What I really liked, which I thought was cool, I think we're starting to see this a little bit more. And actually, my chat recently with Bill Harris, he said the same thing. What happened at TD when they opened up their API is that they had all these vendors, all these technology vendors innovating on their behalf.
That's right.
Talk about scale and moving. And so now the same thing can happen at all different levels for different, whether you're an insurance or wealth management company or a small RIA.
Well, if you want to be a platform that everybody uses, you allow everybody to, store their luggage in your foyer, right?
Yeah.
Connect their stuff to your
Connect
world,
it.
right? Put them on your apps, on your phone. iPhone is a platform, right? Isn't iOS? Isn't Google Android a platform, right? So it makes perfect sense in today's world. If you want to basically bring everybody together, you make it easy to come to the party. And I think it's really interesting given the recent Robinhood acquisition of TradePMR, which happened just a couple of weeks after we had done this interview. It's a real interesting statement, and it can't go unnoticed that Robinhood, of all, very innovative, different way of doing share class, no commissions, has gone into the advisory space, and we can't ignore it. So what do you think's
Yeah.
going on there?
Well, a couple of things come to mind. One is I love it because it shows the value of human advice.
Mhm.
You have a massive tech company with, what do they have? 24 million customers.
Yeah.
All digital experience, all of it, right? Beautiful digital experience. And what are they doing? They're doubling down on human advice.
Interesting. Why
That's
would
pretty
they-
awesome,
Why?
right? So, well, at the end of the day, and you've said this 101 times.
Oh, I know the answer. I just want to know that you know.
Well, I'm gonna hopefully get it right here. We'll see. When the price of being wrong is high, I want to run something by a human.
That's right.
I want my advisor intelligence. And that's what's happening. So yes, the average account size at Robinhood is relatively small.
Mhm.
They do have 140 billion or so assets, which is nuts. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But the folks, we talked about this at Nitrogen, we've talked about this on different webinars. The folks that have those smaller account balances today are the same ones that will be inheriting this generational wealth transfer, the same ones that are going to start earning more and saving more, and they're going to need human advice. So talk about like preparing to skate where the puck is headed. Really cool situation.
There's a couple things that come up to mind here. You're right. 140 billion of assets under management with an average account size. What did you say? It was like, it's less than 10,000 a user.
I think it's less than 6,000 ish. That's a rough number, but right. It's not high.
Okay. So entirely digital aspect. When they first came out, we thought of them as a robo advisor.
Yep.
Right. We thought of them as easy access, low access. We always talked about how the human advisor firms should just buy and utilize the robo advisor and integrate that easy technology for small accounts, easy accounts, low margin accounts.
Yep.
And also next gen engagement,
Next gen.
generation, right? Should go out and buy that. And instead, here you have a robo advisor come out and buy an advisory firm.
Pretty awesome.
So I think they're taking that recommendation, recognizing a couple things. Number one, TradePMR brings $40 billion in assets under management and somewhat 300 to 400 financial advisors that are well mature, right? So they know the business. They know that they bring that advisor intelligence to the table. It's very clear that a lot of the people who have small accounts with Robinhood play accounts probably have more money elsewhere and probably will like that user experience and say, but I now need advice. So they just basically got a plug and play, well-established, independent community of financial advisors they can now just pitch to. And there's probably more than $140 billion in that 23 million people. Well, yeah, that's the irony behind it. The average wealth could be as high as 250, 500, $1 million of net worth.
There's over $1 trillion in that 24 million people. There's over $1 trillion of assets sitting there.
Totally. Well, how much do they need to capture to double their AUM? Not a lot, 10%.
10%.
That's what I'm saying. This is interesting that you brought up Bill Harris, because in a sense, Robinhood is going the way of personal capital.
Yes, it is.
By
Yes.
saying we can create a digital engagement experience that is demanded by X-Gen and Millennial. And now we can engage, we can start them with easy onboarding and then expand. And I think that's really interesting because in this generational wealth transfer or great wealth transfer, those parents are going to give the money to the kids who have a $10,000 account at Robinhood. And they're going to be like, oh my God, what do I do? I'm not going to call mom and dad's advisor. I'm going to call my Robinhood expanded advisor. And
they're not even going to call them. They're going to open up their app and click on a button to say match me with an advisor
or transfer. They're just going to say transfer to my Robinhood account.
Yeah, done. Simple. It's that easy. So that's what's happening. So really, and so what, Jon's talking about, especially with his product background, about using AI, which they're already doing. And we've talked with this other guest recently too, about increasing operational efficiencies and all of that. I mean, think about it. You just got access at TradePMR to over 20 million potential customers. Talk about, drinking from a fire hose. We better have great tech that can increase our efficiency so we can deal with this new inflow.
This is going to be amazing. Look, we saw Morgan Stanley do this with E-Trade. And they crushed it with this. Just like Fidelity decided to go after the qualified accounts, 401ks. Why? So that they could earn all the rollovers when people had to retire. Did that work for them? It worked. Did it work for Vanguard? Yes. Did it work for Morgan Stanley? Do you know that Morgan Stanley is destroying everybody on organic growth right now? What did they get when they bought E-Trade? When the E-Trade was the largest stockholder transaction service on the planet. So everyone who gets stock options and they get mega wealth, guess what they bought? They bought a feeder system from effectively a low-cost, near robo environment, and Morgan Stanley absorbed them and got the stock option and stock shareholder administration. Who do you go? You go to your default provider. There's a real interesting move here, and I think it's going to start showing that we need to match up tech. And I think if TradePMR was not as tech forward as they are, I don't know that they could pull this off because they're
Probably
going to have
not.
to integrate deeply.
Probably not. And also the other key point that I really liked him talking about. So there's always talk about service to the client, which is extremely important, but they're also doubling down on service to the advisor,
Talk about
which
that.
is awesome. Like, make my life easier as an advisor. And I'm going to be loyal. I'm going to give you my business. I'm going to be able to grow more. Everyone wins. And what do you say their average response time was? It was like seconds.
Seconds
Seconds. That's great.
13
For a phone
seconds.
call. I mean, that's amazing.
for a phone call. Yeah, it's not like my other service. Comcast is like, after 30 minutes of being on hold, they're like, "Oh, we'll call you back." I'm like, "You couldn't have done that earlier."
Yeah, right.
We were
Thanks.
busy. 13 seconds. That's amazing. I think so. So what else did we take from this? This was besides the service, besides the AI, besides the tech forward. Now, he did close with AI, and I'm curious what you think advisors should be taking from this.
He kind of drew a line in the sand.
Hmm.
Don't get left behind.
Yeah.
He's right. AI specifically is growing exponentially. Applications, what it can do exponentially. It's only been a couple of years since Chat GPT even came out, and look at what's happening already. And so, is it a little scary? Yeah. Do you have questions from compliance department? Probably, but push, investigate, educate, learn about what's out there. As he says, kick the tires, because if you don't, you will be left behind.
I wrote down a list of some of the stuff he said. He said AI supported repapering of accounts,
Love it.
intelligent rebalancing, tax harvesting, client meeting notes. Okay, that's an obvious one, right?
Yeah.
Content building and managing the vendor community. That's just what I wrote down.
I'll add to that one thing. He said something about during, and post meeting. You can use AI to help with getting ready during the meeting, after the meeting, which they're doing.
Look, operational efficiency, this thing's moving fast, but so did the .com. Some people made a lot of money. Some people lost a lot of money. The question on this one is this a table stake thing? You can't not do this. I know both you and I are using AI to support this podcast.
Yeah.
We're using it where we can to save ourselves time so we can focus on more intelligent effort, right? Higher revenue producing activity. And I think it's probably creating a better quality outcome. So at the end of the day, I think that this is enabling us to be more authentic, more ourselves, better advisors, give more time with clients. Even Abby Salome said it on the prior. She
Yes.
said, you got to find ways to create more revenue producing effort if you want to create organic growth. And you've got Coupler AI, right? You've got your own platform that's literally just making human connections. Let's not be afraid of this thing. And I think Jon is right. We have to start not just not dabbling. We have to start investing. And I think that that's an important aspect of this.
Definitely will get left behind. So I think that takes us to one of the things that you can do.
Yeah.
And yes, get comfortable with AI. And maybe a good starting point is maybe just get a note taker. Or get something that has nothing to do with client facing anything. So you don't have a compliance headache initially, and just start playing with it. Try it, see what happens. Even Gemini is free, or get the free Chat GPT and just do something with it. Try it, right? And get comfortable. And all of a sudden, oh, wow, I see the power of what this can do.
Yeah. Ask yourself, how could you use this to help you leverage?
Ask AI.
Ask it, what should I do with it?
What should I do with you?
Bad idea, right? I mean, gosh, it's all about the power of questions. I think one thing I have learned, Derek, from the AI is literally the prompts, as they're called. Basically, what's the question you're asking the AI bot is the most important part. Guess what the most important part in fact finding and advice delivery is?
Questions.
It's the questions. The quality of your questions dictates the quality of the answers, which dictates the quality of your life. I'm talking about it. Even the questions you ask yourself in the morning. Oh, why did you do that? Why are you such an idiot? Versus, how can I do that better? Two completely different questions. And I think if we get better at asking questions, we'll be better users of AI and also of being better advisors. And I think that's the real key to this. I hope you see that and that the irony behind that.
I do. It's interesting. Something else that came to mind was asking questions is extremely important. Human questions.
Yeah.
It's the human asking the question. AI isn't asking us a question. AI doesn't knock on you. Hey, Adam, I want to ask you a question. It's the other way around.
That's right. Yeah, that's true funny. Because we don't have the answers. We just have the questions, right?
That's it.
I have it. Yeah,
That's why we're advisors.
That's right. Knowing which question to ask at what point in time.
Yeah.
That's really the key. That's really interesting. So this has been great. So I appreciate Jon taking the time to go on this. I know you've had further conversations with him and you've been really impressed with what you've seen there. I think it's be really curious, Derek, what's going to happen with this new announced merger, assuming it goes through. I think it could be really
exciting times. Yeah, exciting times. It'll be cool to see, but just, it's refreshing. I think that if I'm an executive at an insurance and wealth management company, or even just an advisor, pay attention. Look what people are doing. And this is a wonderful example of technology and human advice mashing together and making something awesome happen.
Yeah.
So yeah, super awesome to talk to Jon. Learned a lot. Really appreciate it. And definitely check them out on social. Go see what they're doing. Pay attention.
Yes, definitely pay attention. With that, let's thank all of our listeners and of course, remind you to subscribe, share this with a friend, and of course, interact with us. We're on LinkedIn. Ask us a question. You have some idea or topic you want to talk about. Let us know what that is. We will try to fit it in. We are back and we are raring to go. So we appreciate your patience over the summer. Again, Derek, thank you, my friend, for taking all the time to do this stuff. It's always a fun conversation. I'll look forward to seeing you on the next one.
Likewise, brother. Take care.
Thank you for listening to Rethink, the Financial Advisor Podcast with Holt and Notman. Be sure to subscribe now and join the ongoing conversation. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Asset Map or Connector. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only.